Hey guys, I'm back again. I'm going to be doing a review over the Mortal Instruments City of Bones. So, we're going to jump right into it. I am a huge Mortal Instruments fan. And so, I had read all the books up until the book that she just published here recently. Um, and, I was a huge fan. I loved all the characters, Clary and Jace, favorite couple. Well, no, second favorite couple. Alec and Magnus, they were my favorite couple. Isabel and Simon, beautiful. Jocelyn and Luke, loved them. I absolutely loved Valentine, though. I have to say that. I loved Valentine. It's just, I just loved him as the villain. He was a perfect villain. So, when I heard that they were making a Mortal Instruments movie of the first book, I was like, well, my book just got ruined. But in reality, it was an okay movie. It wasn't, it wasn't fantastic, but it wasn't horrible. So, I'm gonna stop you right now. If you don't want to be in spoiler territory, and they're very minor spoilers. I'm just gonna say that right now. Even if you don't want anything at all in either the movie or the book spoiled for you, then stop watching. Okay, just right now, just stop. But if you want to keep watching, I'm telling you now, I am directing this mostly to people who have either read the book and watched the movie, or have watched the movie and want to read the book, or have read the book and want to see the movie. That's all I'm basing this on. Because, I feel like you guys need to be informed about, the way that this book movie deal worked. Okay? So that way you can kind of prepare yourself before you go and read the book or watch the movie. So anyway, you start the movie off, of course. It immediately jumps into Clary being this rebellious teen that doesn't care what her mom says, and she immediately goes to this nightclub or whatever. I mean that does happen early in the book, but first you have plot development. You find out that Clary's a really sweet girl, and that her rebelling against her mom is kind of rare. But when you watch the movie, it's like, oh, she does this all the time. It doesn't seem like a big deal. But you also have that bond, you develop that bond between Clary and her mom, whereas they don't always see eye to eye, but they're very close. You also see the bond between Luke and Jocelyn, whereas you can obviously tell that he's in love with her, but Jocelyn doesn't love him back. And then, Luke and Clary's relationship, he's pretty much been like a father to her since she was little, ever since her father died. And so, pretty much that kind of set me off a little bit, but I was like, okay, it's a movie, they've got to shave off time where they've got to. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So you go on into the movie, and another thing that I spotted, she's met Jace, she's met Isabel, she's met Alec. And the first thing that they do to mess this all up for me was, in the book, they go to Dorothea's house. They go to her house twice. The first time they just go to talk to her and all this other stuff. The second time is when she actually finds the card and takes a mortal instrument out of the card. They literally put that into one scene. They crammed all that information into maybe a 15 to 20 minute scene. And I sat there and was like, if I hadn't have read the book, I would have no idea what's going on. I really wouldn't have. And I was watching this with my parents, and I literally had to stop the movie and explain to them what was going on because they were lost. And to me, that's not a good movie. That's not a good plot if you have to sit there and explain to the person beside you what's going on. So it seemed like the movie was just trying to give you too much detail in a very small amount of time. They could have even, chopped the first Aunt Dorothea scene down, and maybe just introduced her character, and then the next one, had them going for the tarot cards, instead of it being boom all in one scene, and it's just an information overload. another thing that I didn't like was that Clary's been drawing this symbol, and she's been seeing it everywhere. Yeah, she sees the symbol, but she never wakes up in like the next morning and the symbol is all over her room. That never happens. So why would they incorporate that into the movie when it never happened? I mean, yeah, they want to stress the importance of this symbol and that the fact that she has no idea what it is and all this other stuff, but you don't need to add a scene that's not in the book into a movie. I mean, they could have replaced that scene and put the Dorothea scene in. I mean, that would have made perfect sense. But they just added a random scene that doesn't make sense. So, anyway, you go on throughout the movie. They left out a scene that would have been amazing. They left out Rat Simon. And I know that that's not a huge, thing for most fans. But it was I love that scene. I mean, just thinking about it kind of shows the bond more between Clary and Simon. I mean, yeah, he's a rat, and he's kind of, struggling and all this other stuff to get away from her because he's a rat. But it shows how far Clary would go to protect Simon. And it shows that even if she's going to die, she's going to protect Simon with her life because they're best friends. And they have been since they were little. So, yeah, they end up going and rescuing Simon, but he's a human, and it's not how that scene should have been played out. I mean, they did what they could with, the scene that they had, but it didn't set right with me. Simon should have, he drank the blue drink, as we all know that's what turns him into a rat. But he didn't turn into a rat. He just knocked out, and then the vampires took him away. That kind of upset me. So, the next thing that I noticed, and they played the movie out perfectly up until, all of the other things I could really, I could get past. But then they got to the point where Luke is trying to get all of his people and all this other stuff, and it's the big finale. It's right at the end, and they're supposed to be on an island. They're supposed to be going to this island, and I forget where they're at, but anyway, they're supposed to be going to this island, and that doesn't happen. They're in the middle of this city where they're at, in this majorly populated city, at the Institute. Demons aren't supposed to be able to get into the Institute. That's why the scene wasn't in the Institute. It was on an island. But they turned around and made it into the Institute, and it made it seem like the Institute was a place that was weak, and it didn't have that much value to it. It did seem like another church. So I think, to me, they should have gone with the island thing and put it on the island where the fight was actually supposed to happen. And the fact that they went into the castle, or, well, it'd be the Institute in the movie, but in the book, they're supposed to go into a castle, and it was just supposed to be, or Luke was supposed to bring his entire werewolf pack to, this island and all this other stuff, and they were supposed to fight these greater demons, and these demons out in the middle of this island, and it was supposed to be so much bloodshed that it was ridiculous. And Luke and Clary were supposed to be the only two that got to the building. And they were supposed to, run through, and they're trying to find Jocelyn, and trying to find Valentine, and trying to find Jace, and all this other stuff. And it literally just turned out to being, we're at the Institute, there's a little bit of a fight. Oh, Jocelyn just appears. That's not the way it's supposed to be. They're supposed to run through this castle, come into a room, and they find Jocelyn, and they end up fighting Pegburn and, is it Pegburn? Blackwell and Pegburn, that's what it is. They're supposed to end up fighting those two, and, it doesn't end up being that. It ends up being like this sporadic thing that's just like, oh, well, this happened, well, we'll throw it in 15 minutes into the scene when it's supposed to happen at the beginning, and it just kind of really made me mad because that was an epic fight. It was an epic scene, It was an epic way to end a really good book, and they massacred it. I mean, like I said, I understand it's a movie, they have to do what they can, but really, if you're going to make a movie adaptation of a book, you need to try to keep it as close to the book as you possibly can, because you do have those expectations from fans. And yeah, I understand you're not going to get the exact casting that every fan's going to want, but that's understandable. But when they go to see their book out on a screen, they expect it to be as close as they can to the book, and this movie wasn't that. I mean, it was completely, yeah, it had the same scenes and everything, but it wasn't in the correct order. It didn't convey the same information, the same feelings that it should have. I mean, it was a train wreck. I mean, like I said, at the end, you're supposed to have this big confrontation where Valentine is trying to convince Clary that her and Jace are his blood, his son and daughter, and Jocelyn is their mother. But it ends up just being Jace and Clary sitting there with Jocelyn laying on this couch, fighting Valentine, and it's supposed to be this real internal struggle for Jace, because he loves Clary more than a sister. He actually loves her and wants to be in a relationship with her, but he can't come to the realization that she may be, his sister. And then you also have Valentine, who's sitting there, and Jace has thought that his father has been dead for his entire life. He watched his father die in front of him, and yet Valentine's sitting here saying, "I'm your father," But and then Jocelyn, she's 15 feet away in the movie, but in the book she's nowhere near them. But just that internal struggle for Jace, just for him to accept the fact that maybe this stuff is true, or it may not be true, that was a very heavy element in the book, and you don't see that anywhere in the movie. I mean, Jace is supposed to be really soft and serene and sincere whenever Clary first shows up, and then all of a sudden when Valentine starts throwing these accusations around that him and Jocelyn are, going to be together, and they're, Clary and Jace are his son and daughter, and they're all going to go back to Idris, and they're going to be happy together, and all this other stuff. I mean, that was supposed to be a big moment, a big moment, and it just turned out to be, oh, well, maybe what he's telling me is true. Who knows? Oh, look, he's going through the portal. No, he has the cup. It just ended up being this really just minuscule scene. It didn't amount to much. I mean, there was a bunch of fighting. It was a huge battle. Well, I wouldn't say a huge battle because it's just between Valentine and Jace. But I mean, that actually wasn't supposed to happen. It was supposed to be Valentine and Luke fighting, because Luke just killed Pegborn and Blackwell, and he's supposed to be all beat up and stuff, and he's supposed to come in, and Valentine is supposed to have Luke on his knees about to die. He's about to kill Luke, and for a fan, that scene was just as emotional as finding Jocelyn again. That was, I mean, you've been around, you as Clary, you've been around Luke your entire life, and you see him as a father figure. And then just to have him sitting there, and your supposed real father is about to kill what you see as your father. I mean, that's an emotional scene, and they completely skipped that. And so, that really, that really messed with me again. And so, just the fact that, it's a movie and they have to cut out scenes and stuff like that, but the fact that they just skipped around and were like, oh, we'll make it work somehow, it didn't sit right with me. And then, at the end, Jace and Clary are supposed to ride off on this demon motorcycle that Magnus gave them. And it ends up just being a regular motorcycle, It's just like, really? You're not even going to take the time to even try to make it look like it's flying away? I mean, it could have even been a crappy green screen shot that we can tell is shot on a green screen. But at least it would have been better than just them riding down the street, And so those are just a very few things that I saw that were wrong with this movie. And you guys can talk to me in the comments and tell me how wrong I am and that it was a fantastic movie and they did the best that they could. Trust me, I understand all that stuff. I want to go into directing and writing and all this other stuff whenever I'm older. So, I mean, I understand the director side of it, but I also understand the book fan side of it. I mean, it wasn't the best that it could be. It really wasn't. And so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and say, you know, they should have spent more time on this. I mean, it's not going to stop me from going to see the second movie, which they already started filming right after the first one. You know, it's not going to stop me from seeing that. Hopefully it'll be like the Twilight movies, and the first one, you know, the first one sucked. But then once I realized how big of a fan base this was and how much it really meant to fans and where they messed up at, they made the second one even better. And so I'm hoping that that's what happens with the Mortal Instruments. So, you know, like I said, leave me comments, fight with me in the comments, you know, tell me how wrong I am. I want to have that discussion with you guys. I want to be able to, you know, go back and forth about this movie because it's a good movie, it's a fantastic book, but they just didn't do it justice. And so, you know, comment, subscribe, like the video, dislike the video if you want. Just give me some feedback as to the way you feel. Tell me if, you know, you've read the books, you're not going to go see the movie now. Or if you've read the books, you are going to see the movie now just to see the similarities and the differences in them. Tell me if you watched the movie that you're going to go read the book because you think maybe the book's going to be better. Tell me that since you've watched the movie and maybe you've watched this, that you're not going to read the book now because it's going to ruin the movie. You know, tell me anything. I don't care. Tell me whatever you like. But anyway, you know, just don't really base your opinion on the movie if you haven't seen it, or the book if you haven't read it, based on this. I want you guys to go and read the book or watch the movie at your own leisure and decide for yourself if I'm right or if maybe, you know, you thought the movie was just as good as the book. You know, that's your opinion. But like I said, this is my opinion. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you leave me a comment and, you know, talk to me about what's going on, how you feel about the book and the movie. And I'll see you on the next review, which will probably go up this upcoming weekend. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be doing Divergent. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya.